Приветствую вас на Запад 19 практической конференции по продвижению на западных рынках. Я сейчас переключусь на английский. First English speaker on this conference and last speaker in the conference overall. So you're just closing our conference with the content. So I heard first from you, from Steve Toth. How do you spell correctly name? So next time.
You just call it. I say Toth, but in Hungarian it's more like Toth.
Okay. I'm closely to Hungarian accent, you know. I got this newsletter that you are trying to do in a while, and it's pretty useful. And I think to our audience, I definitely recommend to subscribe to your stuff and just read and get useful information. So today we're gonna. What are we going to do? We're going to talk about that case study, right? How to turn one keyword into 121 keywords and get 400,000 traffic value. Let's start. I will collect all the questions from the chat we have, and we'll ask you in the end, okay?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll share my screen and we'll get going. So first of all, thanks for having me, and really honored to present at the conference. And I'm looking forward to this. I prepared 2 case studies actually for everybody, and let's just get into it. All right, so obviously I have to do my promotional stuff right at the beginning, but this is SEO Notebook. SEO Notebook is not really a newsletter, but it's one piece of strategy every week. And we now have 10,000 subscribers, and I highly suggest that you go check it out. And then the second thing that I'm involved in is a WordPress plugin called gscore.io. And this uses Google Search Console data to optimize your existing content, all from within WordPress. So we can isolate questions that you're ranking for that you don't have in your content, valuable keywords that you don't have in your content, and then just update everything right from within WordPress. And it's on a wait list right now, but we should be launching probably within the next month or two. So just a bit about me. I was the former SEO manager at freshbooks.com. This is where I think evolved the most as an SEO. Having one website to really focus on helped me grow my skills immensely. During that time, I was able to rank #1 for keywords with over 300,000 search volume, money keywords, and I've actually been able to do that not just on freshbooks.com, but on other clients that I have as well. When I was at FreshBooks, we released a blog of 650 articles that we released in 1 month. And at about the 12-month mark, we were having 50,000 unique visitors a day. And the main strategy there was using the people also ask questions in Google to drive that traffic. So we sourced questions around accounting, invoicing, entrepreneurship, things that were all relevant to FreshBooks audience, and created 650 articles, clustered all of the PAAs. People also asked questions together, and the results were crazy. I've also mentioned that I have a newsletter that's 10,000 subscribers in just 2.5 years. I'm starting from scratch, and that's SEOnotebook.com, so you can check that out if you're interested. I'm also an enterprise SEO consultant. I would say, I don't want to say my exact number of clients, but I have a good number of clients for my consulting business. And I grew that to 1 million in revenue in my second year. So it was 500,000 and then 1 million in my second year, which was awesome. So I'm going to be talking about a case study from freshbooks.com. And just so you know, FreshBooks is an accounting software and invoicing software for freelancers and small businesses. So people that provide services, much like many of the SEOs watching right now. You might use things like QuickBooks, Xero, FreshBooks is one of the major ones that you would also use. So we have lots of opportunities to optimize valuable keywords that people search for when they look for accounting and invoicing software. And for today's presentation, I'm going to focus on one big one. So we're going to kind of get into that. That keyword is invoice template. So you can imagine that if you're a freelancer, you're starting out, or maybe you want to send an invoice to a new client, and you don't want to take the time to create an invoice yourself in Word or Excel or whatever, you might look for an invoice template. And this single keyword is searched over 300,000 times globally. You can see the CPC on the screen here is over $5. And there are a lot of variations on this keyword. So this is where we kind of get into the topic of today's presentation, which is how to turn one keyword into 121 pages and get 400,000 traffic value. So that's kind of what I'm going to focus on and show you all about it in just a sec. So, how do we go from one keyword to 121 main keywords and pages? One of the first things you can notice here on the screen is once we type in invoice template 4, we can see all the different variations that people search on this, right? So Google Docs, contractor, consulting, many different variations on this. And one of the important things that I realized from working on this campaign is that this was in 2018 when we started this, but, in sort of this, where we are today in 2022, people expect content that is exactly tailored towards them, right? They don't just look for an invoice template. If I'm a contractor, if I'm a graphic designer, if I'm an artist, I'm looking for something that's exactly for me. I mean, there is so much content out on the web now that people expect to find exactly what they want, something personalized. So that creates a tremendous opportunity for you as an SEO to provide that exact type of content to that searcher, right? So, when somebody is looking for an invoice template for Google Docs, we have the exact thing for them. When they're looking for it for an invoice template for a contractor, we literally have an invoice template with a screwdriver and a hammer on the top of the invoice template, exactly for them, right? So, and we obviously have a dedicated page to that. So just do remember that people search for very specific things. And what we look at in this screen is that Google is actively pushing people to very specific content to find something that's just made for them. So with this strategy and looking at one keyword and turning that into multiple pages to sort of verticalize that content, I've done this for not just invoice templates, but for contract templates, online portfolio, indoor maps, online courses, and estimate software for trades. So I have a lot of experience doing this for all different types of verticals and businesses. So how do we collect the data? How do we create all of these pages based on this one keyword? Probably my favorite tool is always to look at Google, look at what Google is doing for the auto suggest, and trying to see where Google is actively pushing people towards, which keywords and intents they're driving to. Then obviously competitor research is huge, because why not leverage the hard work that somebody else already did and going and checking out what your competitors are optimizing for. With invoice template, we had a massive amount of paid search data. You can imagine that for a keyword that's searched 300,000 times, it's very fast. We can test and we can collect, search terms reports from all of our paid search campaigns and bringing in that data. So we also use paid search a lot for CRO when we optimize these pages. And I'll get into that later. Then, of course, Ahrefs. I'm a big Ahrefs user. We looked at different keywords in Ahrefs. And then customer data. So this is not something that you might think of, but it was actually very, very useful and helpful. When people sign up to FreshBooks, we ask them, what profession are you? Where are you based? Like, how many people in your company? We asked them a lot of information. And what I made a request was I talked to one of the data science people who have access to these databases. And I said, can I have the information where somebody has put in a profession more than once? So if two people said that they were a plumber and they used FreshBooks, plumber would get added to the list. So we had this long list of professions that was actually quite overwhelming. But what we did was just put everything together in a spreadsheet, put invoice templates, ran search volume data, and took the best keywords out of that. After we had this, we obviously have a very, very big Excel file. So this was our money page for invoice templates. This was the page that we spent a lot of time optimizing. And when I say optimizing, I don't just mean once. I mean on a continual basis, monthly on-page optimization, and watching this page slowly climb in the ranks. And when I was working on this page, the first time we made any major updates was fall 2018. And there was a guy named Kyle Roof who had just optimized rhinoplasty plano in Latin, right? So there was, for anybody who doesn't know, there was a contest in the Facebook group SEO Signals Lab where the keyword was rhinoplasty plano, which is a city in Texas. And different SEOs tried to rank for this keyword. And Kyle created a site that was in Latin, and he actually ranked #1 for this keyword. And that right away just interested me like to no end. I was fascinated by this, and I kind of learned what he was doing and what tools he was using. And I optimized my invoice templates page in the exact same way. So I learned a ton. And actually later, about a year or two later, ended up working with Kyle a little bit at FreshBooks, which was a huge, awesome opportunity. But prior to that, I was learning from his rhinoplasty plano case study. So huge shout out to Kyle for that inspiration. What was the sort of secrets to success with on my on-page optimization? I'll get into it in just a sec. We used Cora SEO software. This is a very, very detailed software that measures hundreds, if not thousands, of factors. Basically everything that could possibly be a factor. Keywords in H2s, keywords in alt text, like literally like well beyond that. We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of different on-page factors for the top 100 results, and then tells you for your page how you have to tweak things. So we did use Cora optimization on the invoice templates page. Now, I will say that if you have lots of pages, which we also had, using Cora optimization on every one of them is not really possible. It just takes too much time. But if you have one page that's like a 300,000 search volume keyword, it's definitely worth it to try that software, and you can go check it out at SEO Tool Lab. We needed an excellent writer, somebody who understood SEO without having to explain everything. So we found somebody who was very, very skilled in that. The content briefs that we put towards, that we sent to the writer were very, very detailed. Every heading, every H1, H2, H3 were explicitly instructed on how many keywords to use in them. Underneath each heading, we specified different semantically related keywords to use. It was basically like giving them a very close blueprint where they were just literally just using exactly what we told them in the on-page optimization of that content. We also looked at the Google Search Console data. This is kind of what I'm doing with gscore.io, but at the time we didn't have a tool like that, so it was more manual, but looking at Google Search Console and what keywords were in striking distance. We're talking about bottom page 1, page 2 keywords, and integrating those into the copy. We did use some authority outbound linking on this page. We also optimized a YouTube video for the page, and included that video in the copy, and that was great because when the searcher was searching on mobile, they would often see that video on the search results on mobile. And a lot of the above the fold appearance, I'll get into some of the details on that, but we basically, when we optimized the on page, we cared more about the mobile view because of the mobile first index. And then the desktop view was more geared towards conversion, which is where the majority of the conversions happened anyway. And then just a very high attention to CRO and working with this page and all of these pages for that matter. So you can see here when we do a site search for FreshBooks invoice templates that we have 121 different results. Everything from roofing invoices to catering to construction to Excel to sales invoices. And, we have arrived at 121 different pages. And if we categorize these, we can lump them into 3 main categories. So the first one is industry, right? So these are things like web development, construction, roofing, etc. Then we have the file type that people search for: Google Sheets, Excel, Microsoft Word, PDF. And then we have more descriptive types, right? So blank invoice template, example invoice template, printable invoice template. So we found that these 3 categories were the different types of searches that people performed around invoice templates. And we made sure that we were covering all of these as much as possible. So when you have 121 pages that you all know will translate into customers for your business, you can't simply build links to every 121 pages. It's too much. So what we did was figure out which pages were going to be the highest converting and best type of customer for us. And we internally linked those pages from the money page. And we didn't link all 121 pages from the money page, but we linked the most important ones so that those ones benefited the most from the link equity. And then any pages that were not linked from the money page were then linked from secondary pages. So there was kind of 3 tiers for all these pages working together. So you can see that on the left, we have all of the file types. Then we have different industries that were included, and then another one for even more, which had some industries and some descriptive ones. And you can also see that in the bullet points here, some of these actually say graphic design template, and then some of them also say self-employed invoice template. So this was actually a result of the Cora optimization that we did. If we noticed we were too over-optimized for invoice template exact match keyword, we would leave it out here, right? So sometimes we used it, sometimes we didn't. And when we were tweaking the page, we would often just, subtract and add and remove the money keyword from those instances. So that was just an easy way for us to kind of do all that. Then in terms of internal linking, the internal linking was really done, just with the user in mind, not even anything else, right? So what we did was we looked at what are the common industries related to the page that it was linked on. So for example, when we talk about a contractor, somebody who, does work on your house or in buildings, there were, obviously things that were connected to that Google would know about. Electricians, plumbers, construction companies, roofers, stuff like that, right? So on the contractor page, we have all of these related invoice templates pages for specific industries. So if somebody searches for, contractor invoice template and they're actually an electrician, they would even, navigate to that page and then use something that was even more well suited towards them, right? And obviously, if we earn links to the contractor invoice templates page, that authority gets channeled through to the electrician, plumber, roofer page as well. So the internal linking was very, very deliberate and planned out. And we made sure when writing the content that we would have all of these different areas covered.
Хочешь достичь топа в Google? Используй мощь editorial ссылок.
А что такое editorial ссылки?
Это ссылки сайтов реальных бизнесов. Такие ссылки не продаются. Их можно получить только благодаря выстроенным отношениям. Продемонстрируем эффект от editorial ссылок. Сайт клиента. С мая по декабрь было поставлено 100 ссылок. Трафик вырос в 5 раз. Другой клиент.
Закупали у ребят порядка 10 ссылок в месяц. Работаем уже 8 месяцев. Трафик у нас удвоился. Ну и самое главное, это мы вышли в топ по очень конкурентным запросам. Самый большой вин — это выйти в топ-5 по запросу Software Development Outsourcing.
Заказать editorial ссылки можно на сайте editorial.link. Editorial.link. Мощные ссылки, космические результаты.
Another huge element to ranking and driving a ton of traffic to these invoice template pages was image SEO strategy. So with image SEO, we have a large pack that you see on the right-hand side here, the image pack. When you search for invoice template, we have 21 different images shown on the screen. And people click these. People click the one that they want. And even though it's a JPEG and the experience is not that good, they still click them. And during a 16-month time span in GSC, we drove over 400,000 clicks through images. So if you just look in GSC, you can look how many clicks were a result of the images, and it was over 400,000 in that time span. So some of the keys to success with ranking the images. It's actually not rocket science, and there's not a lot of hacks involved with it, but simply a descriptive file name, descriptive alt text, surrounding text for each image, giving it a little bit of context. If this is a contractor template, contractors enjoy using invoice templates because something like that, and an H3 on top of each image, right? So there was context for each image. And we also looked at what the other images that were ranking had on them. So I do believe that Google is reading images and using that as ranking signal, especially for something like templates. And we tried to use those same words like tax, company name, and stuff like that on our invoice templates, based on what the other images were ranking for as well. So image SEO was a huge strategy for this. And another thing that syncs very well with the theory of Google reading these images and looking for things that are alike and similar to the ranking images, was the fact that we were not able to rank the initial invoice template that we wanted to rank. So you can see here the red one at the bottom. This has a really nice image of graphic design tools and stuff like that. And we felt that if we were able to rank this image, the CTR would be much higher, and that this is really the one that we wanted to rank. But because it has this image and it doesn't look like a lot of the other invoice templates that are on the image pack, we actually just were not able to do it. So that is a lesson there, that if you want to rank an image, make sure it looks like the images that are already ranking, because Google cares a lot about that. So yeah, image SEO is huge for something like this. Any type of templates, keywords that you're ranking for. I've also had a ton of success with the contracts template keyword and images. It's just really, really nice to see the traffic spike for these keywords and images. Another thing that was I felt important was that for each of the secondary pages, we always link back up to the money page as the first link in the content. So what you're seeing here is a section of each secondary page, and we always link back to the money page for each instance there. Then we wanted to give users a way to convert with these pages. So these pages already existed for FreshBooks. They were not performing very well. There was a lot of duplicate content and they were not converting. So a big part of this overhaul was the CRO. And when we redesigned these pages, we wanted to give the user multiple ways to convert to not using the invoice template, but to signing up for a free trial and using the invoice functionality within FreshBooks. And one of the ways that we did that was when the CTA here was download template, this took them to this screen where we have invoice with FreshBooks, and then we have these smaller images for the actual templates, which looked a lot less appealing. And actually on mobile, when you clicked download template, your whole screen was occupied with just this image on mobile. So it gave basically the users, sorry about that. It gave the users a way to it gave the users a way to convert on multiple chances, right? So that was one thing. And just going on a little bit, we found that for link building in this campaign, the link building, like I mentioned, if you have 121 pages, you don't really have the opportunity to have links being built to every page, right? You basically have to build links only to the money page, right? And let the internal links pass that equity around. And so what we did was just build links basically only to the money page. We built a few to some of the secondary pages that were really high value, but primarily they were all built to the money page. All told, we relaunched these pages in January 2019. I left FreshBooks in February 2020. I was hired as a consultant after leaving the company, but during that time, we spiked to 400,000 traffic value. We ranked for invoice templates, 300,000 search volume for just under 2 years. We ranked #1. These pages are not doing as well as they once did, but they're still doing 129,000 traffic value, which is nothing to shy away from. And we increased our number of free trials from SEO by over 10 times with these pages. So by the time I was leaving FreshBooks and starting my own business, we could do no wrong. We were coming in at lunchtime. We didn't get questioned about anything. We had pretty much freedom to do whatever we wanted because these pages were doing so well. So that's pretty much the summary on how to turn one keyword into 121 pages and get 400,000 traffic value. And I've got one other case study for everybody here that will probably also get your mind going with how to optimize around verticals. So this is part 2, and it's a shorter case study, but this was about how to turn 17 people also ask questions into 436K traffic value. And this, I'm not going to name the website here, but it was an online courses website. And these were high ticket courses, $5,000 plus. And they were offered in disciplines like data science, web development, product management, UX, cybersecurity, digital marketing, how to learn Python, things like that. And what we did was we looked at the Google people also ask questions. And we said, what are the popular questions that people ask before they invest in a high ticket course, right? So basically, things like, what is web development? What do web developers do? Do web developers work from home? How to become a web developer? Questions like that. And this was a really great strategy for the client because they initially wanted to rank for things like web development course, Python class. And those SERPs are very much dominated by aggregators like review websites. And it just wasn't possible for the client to rank well in those types of SERPs. So instead, we targeted the same audience, but we targeted them a little bit higher in the funnel than those types of searches. And we noticed that there's a lot of interest. People do a lot of research before they go and spend $5,000. So basically, we found this list of 17 questions that people asked prior to signing up for a course. And then we multiplied that times 18 different careers and got over 300 pages for this section of the website. And so when we had our questions for web developers, what is web development? What do they do? Do they work from home? We translated that content over to all the different disciplines. So what is data science? What do data scientists do? Do data scientists work from home? All those types of questions, right? So we basically used this same journey, but wrote the content just for the different disciplines. The results from this were over 70,000 clicks to high value keywords. You can see the CPCs here, $11, $17, $15, $14. And the organic traffic was around, in Ahrefs says close to 122 a month. And the traffic value for this was about $436,000. So even more than FreshBooks, and just continuing to climb. So we basically found a way to make SEO very profitable for this client. The client wanted to rank for, data scientist course. I told them this is a better way to do it. They completely trusted me, and we had awesome results. So that's pretty much my presentation for today, those two case studies, and I'm happy to answer any questions there are based on that. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Стоят ли ваши ссылки своих денег? Вы уверены, что в ваши статьи не добавились чужие бэклинки? Кто ваш топовый линкбилдер? А кто сливает бюджет на шлак? Владейте реальным положением дел вместе с LinkChecker Pro. Топ-3 наших обновлений за прошлый год. Интеграция метрик Ahrefs, динамика индексации, уведомления об ошибках с детализацией, по типам ссылок, что очень удобно. Узнайте больше про эти и другие фичи в нашем телеграм-канале. Хотите протестить? Регистрируйтесь и пишите в чат поддержки. А по промокоду на запад вы получите 50% на первый месяц.
Hey, I'm here. Thank you for your cool speech. I got some questions actually. Let's start from them. First question from Alessia Korobka. I guess you know her. She asked, with a new client, do you look for quick wins? If yes, where exactly are you looking, and what do you check in the first place? Something most people don't do, or omit, or don't think about usually?
Great question. So 100% always do that with every client that you have. The faster you can show your value, the more trust you'll gain from them, and the easier your job will be going forward. So one of the things that I do in my proposals and in the first month of a client is always look for content that we can refresh. So content that's already performing, how can we add some sections to it that are going to benefit the client? So one of my notes, and if you go on my blog, you can find a regex that will isolate the different questions a site is ranking for by looking at like who, what, where, when, why, how the keywords start. And you can just look in GSC and find these questions and then add those questions into the content. You can also look at the headings from your competing sites on the SERP and add topics that you're not talking about. And by creating these content refresh briefs, you can often have many quick wins.
Okay, thanks for the answer. Second question, do you use picture generator, for example, for translation?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Use picture generator, like for example, for translation. This is the question from the chat, so I'm not sure. I know.
If I'm not sure what it is, I probably don't do it.
Okay, what do you think about AI writing assistants like Jarvis and other? How well do they write text?
Yeah, so I think this has a place for some people, and for other people it doesn't. Personally, for the types of clients that I work with, I would not use Jarvis, but if I have a site that I want to get indexed and get content familiar with Google, and then maybe come back 6 months after it has some initial impressions and clicks and data, I would use the AI content as a starting point and then go and optimize it later.
Okay, thanks. Why do you think the website from the first case eventually declined in traffic?
Great question. So I watch that website so carefully, like every day, and we have like 2 years of almost ranking #1, right? And what I think personally, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is just my ego, but I honestly think Google has like a thing where it doesn't let a site be #1 forever, right? That it eventually the knobs get twisted enough so that what you was once successful is no longer successful, and it's very hard to determine what that relevance adjustment is. There are things that you could potentially do to improve things. But when you're working with a large website and you're working with a large team, it's often hard to get the re-optimization done the way that you want to. And by the time it already declined, I had not even been working there. So it was harder to manage.
Thanks. Did you use a schema org markup in your case, in particular image licenses?
No.
Okay, so next question like the guy says, really impressive speaker. All was slowly explained, which is pretty cool. You know, like sometimes when people just like don't have English as the first language, so like it's cool that everyone probably understood you. So, so the question is, did you plan these outcomes of 400K traffic, or it's just result of experiment?
We didn't know what the ceiling was on it, but we knew how much money we were spending on paid search for that keyword and that it mattered a lot. So we basically took most of our budget and most of our attention towards these pages. And, you know, at their peak, this page, when I looked in Google Search Console and I looked at the number of clicks and then multiplied that by the CPC for each click, it was like $50,000 a week for the money page. So at that point, yeah, it was just awesome to see that it had that much potential.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool when you don't expect, you know, and you get even more than like. Another question. I think you haven't told anything about link building in these two cases, or it's no crucial for them.
Я SEO-специалист, и мне нужны ссылки, чтобы продвинуть сайт.
Buy Authority Links.
Authority Sites.
Best PBN.
Блога Outreach.
Пироги.
Яшара Domains. Заходи ко мне и покупай ссылки с мощных доменов в складчину. Многие SEO-специалисты уже получили хорошие результаты от моих ссылок.
Сколько стоят твои ссылки?
Всего за $150 ты получишь ссылку с домена, который был куплен на аукционе за $2000. Я беру на себя всю рутину: выкуп доменов в нерабочее время, поднятие сайтов, замену ссылок участников.
А какие доменные зоны у тебя есть?
У меня есть международные и европейские домены.
Как попробовать?
Регистрируйся на share.domains, а я дам тебе свой самый лучший промокод.
No, it was definitely crucial. So I can give one anecdote about the link building strategy that I thought was pretty cool. So FreshBooks, it was well-known invoice software for many, many years, like 15 years. It's a 15-year-old company. And if we look into history, there's lots of lists of top invoice software, and FreshBooks is always mentioned in all of these old lists. And these old pages have tons of links. We're talking about pages that are 10 years old mentioning different invoice softwares. So what we did was we outreached to these pages that are already mentioning FreshBooks invoice software, and we asked them if they could link to the invoice template too, and many did. So that was one strategy.
Thanks. How do you decide which question from PAA you should write an article about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what you can, one tip that I would give for this is collect as many PAAs as you can. Like, just use SEO Minion. You can go to SEOminion.com and download their Chrome extension and just copy all the PAAs as you expand them all, and do as many as you can, and then use a keyword clustering tool. So I use Keyword Cupid, keywordcupid.com, and you can put all of these PAAs into a keyword clustering tool, and it will group them all together. And then at that point, you know which ones can go together, and you really have to use your own judgment, right? So during COVID, we knew that the questions about working from home, as all of these professions were going to be very popular. So we chose that one, and then we basically just used our minds. You have to use your mind, not just search volume or not CPC, because you're not going to have good data for cost per click for a lot of these PEAs, which show zero, right? And same with search volume.
Yeah, that's actually like when you write sometimes like in Facebook, like use your mind, it's like the main point, no matter what tool do you use, like you still need to like think, like to use critical thinking, like, and get.
Yeah.
Thank you so much that you're connected. What time is like in Canada right now?
It's shortly after 5 o'clock.
Yeah, lucky you.
1700 p.m.
Lucky you. It's 12:14 already. It's like 14 minutes after 12 night in Kiev.
Well, so, thanks for staying up late.
It's been 14 and a half hour conference, and I have like last question from the chat. So thanks, Toth. What is the most important in link building in 2022? It was so helpful. Look forward to hearing you again.
I would say that the ultimate link that you can get, and I'm not the first person to say this, is a link from a relevant website in your exact SERP. So if that's not possible, try and go for pages. Like if you're looking at a site that you know that you can get a link on, look for a page that is ranking somewhere for similar keywords to you, right? So you can go to Ahrefs, you can check the different keywords that the site is ranking for and pick the page that has relevant keywords to your industry and try to get a link on that page.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you so much again that you prepared the speech, shared with us your two cases. Hope everyone liked it. I hope I see you again in some of our other events. Thanks for sharing information, and bye. Yeah.
All right, take care. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya. Спасибо большое за то, что смотрите на Запад. Это 12-15 ночи. И самые, наверное, стойкие 117 юзеров онлайн. Поставьте плюсик, понравилось вам ли все. Запись этой конфы сохраняется не полностью, но мы обещаем в ближайшее будущее выложить по отдельности каждый из докладов. Надеюсь, этот день был информативным, полезным. Вы чего-то для себя извлекли, поэтому увидимся на Запад 20. Дату мы еще не знаем, но об этом скоро сообщим. Спасибо большое, всем пока.